with the Notre Dame Fighting Irish returning to action on Saturday in West Lafayette. They renew a rivalry that has been absent for a couple of seasons, but they overall have dominated this series. But yet the task is not going to be easy as they welcome a familiar foe, but yet a not so familiar foe. Want to find out who it is? Stay tuned on Talk Like a Champion. Welcome back, you guys. Thank you so much for joining us on Talk Like a Champion. Of course, you know I am the one and only Mr. CeeLo, fanatical Notre Dame fan since I could last remember as a child. And today we're here to discuss the keys and possible outcomes of the Notre Dame-Purdue rivalry. Now, as many of you know, this is the battle. Yes, it is for the Battle of the Shillelagh, just a game that involves it's a trophy that just is between the Irish and the Purdue Boilermakers. And as you see, the Irish have maintained this trophy for the last 8 matchups, and they've held it since September 18th, 2021, which was darn near 3 years. Darn near 3 years ago since Purdue and Notre Dame last hooked up in South Bend. Now, this time, the game will be picked up in West Lafayette. Now, I'm going to go and look at the offensive side of the Purdue Boilermakers, what makes them scary. And now, many of you guys don't realize who Graham Harrell is. Now, to many of you, this may just be another offensive coordinator that just runs a air raid offense. But he's not just an air raid offensive coach. He comes from the Mike Leach, I don't want to say coaching tree, but I will say he comes from the tutelage of Mike Leach. And as many of you know, Mike Leach hardly ran the football. God bless him. To me, one of the best minds in college football. I think the air raid offense is one of the most entertaining styles of football to play. And arguably his best season as a coach was with Graham Harrell as his quarterback. Along with Michael Crabtree, they formulated one of the most dynamic Texas Tech teams ever. People can say what they want about Mahomes. Mahomes was at Texas Tech. He didn't garner any of the attention that Graham Harrell and Michael Crabtree did. Sorry, say what you want. People are going to say they know Mahomes, but Graham Harrell never got a shot. Now, with that being said, this is who Notre Dame has in front of them this week. And you can look at this game and you can tell Graham Harrell's strength is accuracy. He coaches almost to the T as the way Mike Leach coached his air raid offense, except he institutes a few more runs than Mike Leach does. And the reality of it is he had a chance to face Marcus Freeman's defenses while he was at Southern Cal. Truth of the matter is as I said, he institutes way more running plays than Mike Leach does. He uses the pass game to set up his runs, but he sprinkles more runs into his playbook than Mike Leach did. Now, the reason why Graham Harrell is so different than many of your offensive coordinators that have played this game before is that he speaks of the game from a more strategic standpoint. A lot of your coaches, they just call plays. Oh, they're running this more. Let's call plays. Graham Harrell is more of a strategic type offensive coordinator. He's going to look at you in certain situations and say, okay, let's do it this way. Okay, let's do it that way. Oh, their plan is this way, but tendencies tell us to do it this way. Let's run this play that sets up a weakness. And the reality of it is, Marcus Freeman understands they've got good tight ends, they've got good skilled wide receivers, and the reality for Notre Dame is these secondary guys are going to get probably a underestimated test, not only by myself, but a lot of the members in the media early on in the season. I don't think anybody anticipated that the Purdue Boilermakers were going to come out and be doing what they're doing. Now, granted, they've only played one game, but we got to go back and we have to look at Hudson Card. Hudson Card's an accurate kid. He's very accurate with his throws to the point. This is a guy that went 24 of 25. He set the FBS single game record of throwing 20 passes or more. He was 24 of 25, you guys. And the truth of the matter is, we have a defense that is very good on the back end. The problem we've had the last couple of weeks is our front four/front five have not done an effective job getting pressure, stopping the run. Now, I know a lot of people are going to say, well, they only gave up 16 points. That's true. That is very true. And I must remind people that this offense has not helped keep the defense off the field. So while we're saying that the defense needs to get off the field, the offense needs to do a better job staying on the field. Now, back to the point. You've got some really interesting pieces for the Purdue Boilermakers that you can really shake a stick at. And as I said, senior Hudson Card, who is from Houston, Texas, looked exceptionally good in their first game. And I think the problem the Notre Dame Fighting Irish are going to have is they're going to have to be able to get some pressure to Card and make him make some errant throws. I'm not worried about our coverage down the field. But here's where they're going to have to do some different things. They love to use the tight end. So not only are our safeties, and this is where Xavier Watts's wheelhouse is covering tight ends. To me, this is going to be the situation that is going to win or lose this game for the Irish. Now, a lot of people are going to say, oh, this is going to be a joke. No, we said the same thing about Northern Illinois. I said the same thing about Northern Illinois. Yeah, I know. But the truth is, you look at their running game. They ran the ball 31 times in this game. Card ran it 3 times, but you had sprinkled out 31 carries for 248 yards last week. So, as we said, Graham Harrell wants to run the football, but at his own terms. That's where he wants to run the football. But then we look at how things are all out there. You've got Max Clare, who's a tight end, and then you got Jamal Edrin, 6'3", 215 pounds. Now, this dude is a big guy. This is a big guy, ladies and gentlemen. This is not some pushover wide receiver. This is going to be a big guy. He's been running around out there. And then you've got Leyland Smith, 6'4", 219-pound sophomore. This needs to be a guy that's at Notre Dame next year. But I'm going to do a show on why we can't get receivers like this. On the other hand, this is going to be a great challenge for our secondary. Listen, people are going to say, being a wide receiver is all about beating guys. It's not always beating them with speed. Look at Bo Collins. He don't always beat guys with speed. He beats them with his size. These two guys right here are going to be trouble, Notre Dame, Irish Nation. These two guys are big and they are physical. Smith and Adrien, these guys are big. So this is going to be a matchup that's going to be tough. And I didn't even talk about Jerron Tibbs. 6'3", 214-pound sophomore. I mean, this could be a very great audition for Notre Dame if we could throw the ball down the football field. Now, a lot of people will argue we don't need any more receivers, and I agree. We need to utilize the ones we have. But Purdue's got 3 really big, physical, imposing wide receivers that would just take our game to the next level. Not every guy's got to be a 4-1, 4-2 guy. Not every guy's got to be a blazer. But if he can catch the football. Now, the Irish have to get some kind of pressure on Carr. I'm not going to sit here and say that this secondary is going to be able to do it by themselves. Because we've obviously seen when these guys give the quarterback a lot of time, receivers can get open. Listen, I don't care what lockdown corner you are. If you're not getting pressure, it makes it twice as hard to cover and cover efficiently. Guys like Mills have got to step up. We have got to get pressure. We have got to put teams in 3rd and longs so we're capable of making Carr's 96% accuracy rate go down. Because if this accuracy rate is up over 70% by game's end, Marcus Freeman's job might be in jeopardy. And I'm not calling for his job, but I can tell you there's going to be a lot of people in South Bend calling for it. I believe that Graham Harrell is going to try to do as many screens. I think what's going to happen is there's going to be a lot of misdirection on pass plays. There's going to be a lot of screens. And that Graham Harrell is going to do his best to get this secondary misaligned. I believe that's what Graham Harrell is going to try to do. And what has to happen is when the Purdue Boilermakers attempt to do that, that's where we and Al Golden have to come up with blitz packages that not only confuse Card, but are confusing the offensive line. Because once we get that done, everything's going to go out the door. And we have to tackle in space. That is one huge thing that is going to happen. These receivers are big. These guys are some big guys, and we have to be able to tackle in space. We've got some good corners, but they're very light. I mean, a lot of people are going to say we're going to have to play. I would play nickel and dime. I would question maybe doing that. I would probably go to a 3-3-5, maybe put 3 safeties out there because these guys are not burners, but they're good wide receivers, and they have to be tackled in open space. They're very big and physical, and their tight ends big and physical. We're going to have to tackle well because yards after catch are going to be huge in this game on their side of the football. Moving on to the offensive side. We have not had that game yet. We have not had that game where we can just look and say, hey, look, this offense is looking very, very good, looking very nasty. And honestly, it's like I've told many people, the Notre Dame offensive line is very young. Mike Denbrock's going to have to figure out some ways to slow down the pass rush and slow down Riley Leonard. Now, I was listening to a couple of podcasters, and they made the statement of doing some different things, going the obvious. Personally, I would love to see Jadarian Price and Love out there on the field at the same time. I would love to see both of them out there at the same time. Put them out there with Bo Collins and Mitchell Evans. And I would even venture to say, putting Flanagan out there with in certain situations, because look, he's had some pretty good plays. Cooper Flanagan has had some really good opportunities, and you could go double tight end. This is something that I have not understood with Marcus Freeman and his offensive coordinators. Now I get it; he's not an offensive-minded guy, but what needs to happen is watch our show. We'll give you ideas. It would be great if you you go trips and you've got a guy like Chris Mitchell out there along with Mitchell Evans and Cooper Flanagan out there flanked with him. Could you imagine throwing a flip out there to him? Could you imagine that? Or better yet, you got big boy Bo Collins and Jaden Thomas. You put Bo Collins and Jaden Thomas out there, two really big wide receivers out there, and then you put him out there, Chris Mitchell out there. I've been saying you could simplify the offense and do some really good things. But what you have to do is you have to make defenses think. Right now, you're doing the same old Notre Dame thing you do. You line up guys and say, hey, we're going to block the guy in front of us and win at the point of attack. You're not doing that when they're putting extra guys in the box. And then you got a quarterback in Leonard who can't even read what's coming. You've got a young offensive line. They're not going to know. The whole point of a much more seasoned quarterback is that he understands what's going on. You can't understand what's going on if you're not even looking at the pieces that you're presented by the defense. I ultimately think guys like Jaden Greathouse have to get more involved. And I was listening to someone say that Love and Price need to touch the ball a combined 35 to 40 times a game. That's fine, well, and good. But what are you going to do when you get into the big guys? Those big teams that know that's where the ball is going. And you don't have guys like Bo Collins. You don't have guys like Cooper Flanagan. You don't have guys like Jaden Greathouse. You don't have guys like even Chris Mitchell touching the football. And then you expect them to touch the football and do well with it in big moments. I remember hearing a Notre Dame podcaster say something to the effect of that Greathouse probably dropped that football Saturday because he was trying too hard or he was thinking too much about it. It's a possibility. And those people will say, well, that doesn't make any sense. Oh, it makes perfect sense. You're trying so hard to make a play because you know they're going to be limited. And you just overthink it. And you make a mistake. Something that's overly routine for a player of his caliber. But he doesn't make it. Because he's overthinking. We've got to get back to making big plays in the passing game. Now, I will say this. Do I think that Purdue has a pretty good defensive front? We're going to see a lot of teams that are going to challenge this Notre Dame offensive line that looked pretty darn impressive considering the hostile environment. But then they got back home and it was a total flip. It was a total flip from what we saw in College Station. It was almost like the Irish were saying, as I said on my show, that all they had to do was win out. They felt like the mission was over. And it wasn't. They've got several good defensive line players. One of them, I'm going to throw Will Helt. 6'6", 265 pounds, who's a guy that, in my opinion, is playing for the wrong school. But we're going to see. 6'6", 265. This is a guy you better watch out for. He had 2 sacks last week and 7 total tackles. This is a guy, in my opinion, he reminds me so much of Aiden Hutchinson, the way he hustles. Now, I'm not saying he is Aiden Hutchinson. I don't want anybody to hit me up saying, oh, he's not Aiden Hutchinson. This guy has the ability. He's just a sophomore. But it begs to differ. Where's this guy been? As well as, Kydron Jenkins, who had a sack last week, and he had 4 solo tackles. You've got some big bodies up there for Purdue. You've got 300-pound DeMarge Lewis. You got Jeffrey Mba. He's over 300 pounds and is 6'6". Listen, I was listening to a gentleman the other day said, if anybody can wreck Notre Dame's offense, it's going to be this Purdue defensive front. They're big and they're long. And this is not going to bode well for Riley Leonard. Mike Denbrock's going to have to coach a lot of misdirection. Now, I will say this, on the perimeter, I'm not as overly impressed with what they have on the perimeter. If they can protect, I'm going to say this, guys, if they can protect Riley Leonard or Steve Angeli or whoever is under center on Saturday, big plays are there in the secondary. But that's a huge if. The battle in the trenches. If this O-line can hold up, this has the makings of a huge day. Possibly for the running game as well. But it's going to be interesting to see what Mike Denbrock brings to the table in West Lafayette on Saturday. Now, as far as the way I look at things, I look at the Irish as being ticked off about what happened Saturday. They've had to hear it all week. Coach Marcus Freeman understands that his job may be, he may end up getting, his seat is warm, lukewarm, but it's going to heat up a lot more if they fall in this game, because they will fall out of the top 25, and I don't know if there's any recovering. I think the Irish go out. Guys like Price and Love have multiple touchdown games. You have someone like Bo Collins and possibly Jaden Grayhouse that has multiple touchdown receiving games. I think the Irish blow this game open. Graham Harrell's offense is unable to get footing, and I think the offensive line gets roughed up early, but I think they make enough plays. Denbrock calls enough really excellent misdirection plays and quick throws for Riley Leonard to push the Irish over the top. But let me know what you guys think about Notre Dame and Purdue in the battle for the Jules Shillelagh as the Irish continue to work their way back into the good graces of America and prove they belong amongst the elites and not amongst the MAC teams. But hit me up at Instagram, Mr. CeeLo. And guys, if you guys subscribe on this show, please leave your name in the comments so that I can put you on the list. And then if you have a question or you have a comment on the show, please leave that as well. Also, go to the Facebook page over at Talk Like a Champion and become a member, as well as adding yourself to the many fans that are already members. But until we meet again, may the road rise up to meet you. May the wind be always at your back. May the sun rise warm upon your face. May the rains fall soft upon your fields. And until we meet again, may God hold you in the palm of his hand.